The shockwave. In early 2024, a silent notification hit the screens of hundreds of Duolingo employees. It wasn't a reminder to finish a Spanish lesson. It was an off-boarding notice for 10% of the company's language experts. The green owl, once a symbol of accessible education, had just found a new best friend: artificial intelligence. Luis von Ahn, the CEO, made a cold calculation. Why pay experts when GPT-4 can do it for free? But this calculation would soon lead to a $10 billion wipeout on the stock market. This is the story of how Duolingo flew too close to the AI sun and got burned. The betrayal of the polyglots. For a decade, Duolingo was built on the blood, sweat, and tears of human translators. These were polyglots who understood the soul of a language. They knew that a language is not just a set of words, but a culture. But in the eyes of Wall Street, humans are merely overhead costs. When Duolingo integrated OpenAI's GPT-4, the humans became obsolete overnight. The company claimed AI would streamline content creation, but users immediately noticed the change. The sentences became robotic, the nuances disappeared, and the soul of the lessons died. A massive wave of N-shitification had begun. The financial suicide, 512 to 90. At first, investors were thrilled by the cost-cutting. The AI hype drove Duolingo's stock to an insane peak of over $500 per share. The company looked like an unstoppable tech titan, but then the AI paradox kicked in. If AI is so good that Duolingo doesn't need humans, why do users need Duolingo? Why pay a monthly subscription to an app that just resells ChatGPT? The market realized that Duolingo had automated itself out of a competitive advantage. Fear turned into a sell-off. The stock plummeted, losing nearly 80% of its value, crashing down toward the $90 mark. Billions of dollars in market cap evaporated like a morning mist. The architect of free labor. To understand Duolingo, you have to understand the man behind it, Luis von Ahn. Before the green owl, he was the king of the CAPTCHA. Remember those distorted words you had to type to prove you weren't a robot? That was his invention. He realized that millions of hours were being wasted by people typing random text, so he created reCAPTCHA. Every time you solved one, you were actually digitizing books for Google for free. He didn't just build a security system. He built a machine that turned human effort into data. Duolingo was born from the same philosophy. How can I make millions of people work for me while they think they are playing? The dopamine prison. Duolingo is not an education app. It is a casino dressed in school clothes. The goal isn't for you to learn French. The goal is for you to stay in the app. Everything is designed to hijack your brain's reward system. The bright colors, the satisfying ding of a correct answer, the flashy animations. This is what psychologists call variable rewards. You're not chasing fluency, you're chasing the next dopamine hit. Duolingo runs hundreds of A/B tests daily to see which button color makes you stay 2 minutes longer. They don't care if you remember the verbs. They care if you keep clicking. The manipulation of guilt, the streak. But the most powerful weapon in the owl's arsenal is the streak, the little fire icon that tells you how many days in a row you've played. This is a psychological masterclass in loss aversion. After 365 days, you aren't learning anymore. You are just protecting a number. The fear of losing that number creates psychological debt. That's why you do a lesson at a funeral. That's why you do it at 11:59 p.m. in a hospital bed. And if you fail, Duo, the owl, becomes aggressive. Passive-aggressive notifications, crying emails, threatening memes. It's not a tutor, it's a digital stalker that monetizes your guilt.
The cartel slayer, IELTS versus Duolingo.
For decades, Two giants held the keys to the world, IELTS and TOEFL. If you wanted to study abroad, you had to pay their tax. These tests cost over $250, required months of waiting and a trip to a physical center. For a student from a developing country, this was a fortune. Luis von Ahn saw this as a gatekeeping cartel. He launched the Duolingo English test for just $70. You could take it at home, on your laptop, and get results in 48 hours. At first, elite universities laughed at it, but then the pandemic hit and the testing centers closed. Suddenly, Yale, Columbia, and Stanford had no choice but to accept the Green Owl test. Duolingo didn't just teach languages, it started issuing the passports to the future. It was a financial revolution that stripped billions from the old academic establishment. The quality crisis, the AI hallucination. But in its rush to replace humans with AI, Duolingo hit a wall. Large language models like GPT-4 are brilliant, but they are also hallucinators. They don't understand grammar, they just predict the next likely word. Soon, users started reporting bizarre errors in low-resource languages. In the Irish and Navajo courses, the AI began generating gibberish. Without human polyglots to verify the data, the lessons became unreliable. The AI first memo that promised efficiency was now creating a quality nightmare. Duolingo tried to hide this behind a new luxury tier, Duolingo Max. They asked users to pay even more for the same AI that caused the layoffs. The irony was lost on the management, but not on the market. The bubble bursts, the fall from 512. By mid-2025, the AI hype reached a fever pitch. Investors valued Duolingo at a staggering $512 per share. It was a classic bubble built on the dream of infinite growth without employees. But then the quarterly reports started coming in. The costs of running massive AI models were eating the profits. At the same time, growth in new users began to stall. The stock market realized the terrifying truth. If AI is a commodity, Duolingo has no moat. Anyone can build a language bot using the same OpenAI API. The sell-off was brutal and fast. From a high of 512, the stock began a terrifying free fall. It didn't stop until it touched $90. Over 80% of the company's value was wiped out in months. The enshittification of the owl. As the stock price crashed, Duolingo became desperate for revenue. This led to a phenomenon known as enshittification. The once clean interface became a minefield of advertisements. For free users, the experience turned into a nightmare. You finish a lesson and you're hit with a 30-second unskippable ad for another game. The Hearts system, once a teaching tool, became a paywall. If you make 5 mistakes, you can't learn anymore unless you pay or wait for hours. It's no longer about education. It's about making the experience so annoying that you finally buy Super Duolingo. The mission of free education for everyone was slowly dying under the weight of Wall Street's demands. The social rebellion. Duo lost its soul. The 2024 layoffs were the final straw for many loyal fans. On Reddit and Twitter, the hashtag #DuoIsDead began to trend. Users shared stories of how AI-generated lessons were teaching incorrect slang or formalisms. "I'm not learning from a native speaker anymore," one viral post read. "I'm learning from a machine that thinks it's a person." The company's social media team tried to pivot with memes, but the vibe had shifted. The funny, aggressive notifications now felt genuinely corporate and cold. When users saw that the humans who built their favorite courses were being replaced by GPT-4, the magic evaporated. A community once built on a love for culture became a community of critics. The escape plan: math, music, and chess. Facing the collapse of its language monopoly, Duolingo pivoted once again. They launched Duolingo Math and Duolingo Music. Why? Because math is a universal language, and music is the language of the soul. They integrated a digital piano into the app, letting you play tracks from major artists. They added algebra, geometry, and statistics for middle schoolers. Even chess was integrated through a partnership with chess.com. The goal is clear. Duolingo wants to be the everything app for your brain. If you aren't learning Spanish, they want you learning the Pythagorean theorem or a Coldplay song. This is a desperate gamble to prove they are more than just a translation tool. Conclusion: the green owl at the crossroads. Today, Duolingo sits at its lowest point in years. With the stock at $90 and a threat of free AI tools growing, the future is uncertain. Luis von Ahn saved the company once by inventing reCAPTCHA and Duolingo. Can he save it again from the very technology he embraced? Is Duolingo a bargain at this price, or is it a falling knife? One thing is certain: the era of fun and free is over. Welcome to the era of the AI-driven, profit-hungry, and slightly desperate green owl. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to protect your streak while you still can.